Well, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 23rd of December. Christmas is just around the corner, and believe it or not, we are still talking about the Yellow Vest protests, which, although they started in France, have now spread around the world. In fact, anywhere where there seems to be even a hint of globalism, the Yellow Vest protests have erupted. Now, you remember that they started in France some 6 weeks ago when President Emmanuel Macron decided to put a carbon tax, a hefty carbon tax on the population, and this was basically the trigger that lit the fuse to many simmering issues. Because what has happened in France is that under globalization, one of the things that they do is a redistribution of labor and manufacturing, and so all of your manufacturing gets exported to third world countries, and the vacuum is filled by banking, finance and other office type skills, and so there's a gentrification of the inner cities. And of course those on the periphery or in the rural areas are disenfranchised, so it's a lot harder to get work in the rural areas. The inner cities and that kind of stuff, they don't have those kind of pressures, and so when this tax was put in place, it just added to a real burden on those in rural areas, many of whom had to drive to and from work, this kind of thing. But then it spread to the Netherlands and Belgium, and of course the globalists were surprised when there was no carbon tax in Belgium or the Netherlands, and immigration was the big issue there. And since then, Portugal, Spain, and I put together a clip of a few protests around the world that I found on the internet, and so even Taiwan and Canada now are protesting immigration and cost of living. So this is not going to go away. It seems that everywhere that globalization has laid its hands, it has created this disparity and this separation of wealth, the rich and the poor. And of course, because it's unelected, it seems very much like an elitist movement. And I think this is the underlying core, is that literally millions and millions and millions and millions of people are getting the picture that when it comes to globalism, you're not wanted on the voyage. You're just baggage. Okay, what you think and what you say and what you feel doesn't count. The bureaucracy is making all of the decisions, and you get to live with all of the consequences, good and bad. And people are getting absolutely sick and tired of this disenfranchisement. Okay, so let's go to these couple of clips that I've got, and then I'll come back and wrap up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, this from CNN. Yellow Vest protest movement spreads to Taiwan. Inspired by the French movement, Taiwan's own Yellow Vest protests are expected to continue on Saturday, with anti-tax demonstrators preparing to take to the streets again. Supporters of the Taiwanese Tax and Legal Reform League, each donning a trademark gilet jaune, yellow vest, first marched on Taiwan's presidential office in the capital Taipei on Wednesday. This is the Hartes. Hundreds rally against high cost of living in Yellow Vest protests in Tel Aviv. Oh, there you go. Protesters block Shalom intersection near Defense Ministry. This is a clear message to Carlon and his friends in the government. The people aren't suckers and we won't pay for monopolies, says student union leader. And CTV News. Yellow Vest protests spread to Canada, criticising illegal immigration and taxes. Originally starting in France, Yellow Vest protests have moved to Canada. Many were held Saturday across the country, criticising the tax and immigration policies of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his government. The protests against French President Emmanuel Macron's government, which began as a criticism of fuel taxes, have entered their fifth week. Over 66,000 people decided to defy the government's orders to suspend protests this past weekend. At least 8 people have been killed since the riots began in that country. Similar demonstrations have taken place in Belgium, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom in the last several weeks. So here you go, folks. Get that gilet jaune, get that yellow vest, because The Yellow Vest protests are coming to a town near you soon.
Very complicated, you know. There is a crisis. Normally the government has to resign, but it didn't resign. And it's a nice example of the problem in Belgium. These people, they speak about democracy, but they don't use democracy. Normally, in a really democracy, the First Minister, Charles Michel, has to resign. He didn't do it. That's the first thing. And second way, it's a total capitalist political for the people with a lot of money. But for the little people, for the poor people, they don't do anything.
In de waarde 15 miljoen mensen.
Bij punten waarbij de doorgang wat smaller wordt. Ik heb wat
Bonjour à tous, comment ça va?
So I think that you can clearly see that this truly is a worldwide movement, and unless our elitist governments start to pay attention, they are going to see just an increase and a spread of this kind of reactionary protesting against the gerrymandering of the whole societal situation and not bothering to consult the people who live there. You know, I thought it was actually kind of interesting in the face of the fact that the Liberal government wants to up the immigrants coming into Canada to 425,000 people a year. One of the suggestions for Canadians is to have one less child, because that's the most carbon intensive thing that you can do, apparently, is have a child. Well, what kind of message is that sending? I mean, for goodness sake, why would you tell your own population to have less children and then say we need to bring in migrants to Canada because we don't have a large enough population? This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And the more that governments and bureaucracies stop making sense to the common people, you'll find that more and more people will feel disenfranchised, and more people will be reluctant to participate in the whole process. And there is a thing that the World Bank considers that it's called social cohesion, and that is when the people who are in charge are no longer in charge. And I'm thinking that we're not too far away from that moment. I don't think we're too far away from that moment. Anyway, please, if you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe below. There's still, like I said, I've got a whole week off. Big Christmas coming up, of course. I don't know what I'm going to do around there, but I'm definitely going to do some predictions for the coming year. And yeah, maybe a little review of some of the things that have happened in the last year. Okay, so this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, thanking you for joining me on this journey, and thank you for subscribing. We are zooming towards 5,000 subscribers, and that is just absolutely fantastic. So you take care, have a great weekend. See you now. Bye.